voices have been raised against this from the very beginning of this whole insanity that started, as I say, with Reagan's Starwars. Harold Brown, who was the defense minister under the administration of Jimmy Carter, said after Reagan suddenly announced Starwars, and it was sudden, he had no consultation with the Pentagon, no consultation with his science advisors, no consultation with any other nations in the world, didn't tell the United Nations, didn't tell American Congress, and didn't tell the people or even his closest advisors before he suddenly announced this crazy revolution in the whole strategy and tactics of modern nuclear warfare in the space age. And Harold Brown responded shortly thereafter that this was the most irresponsible act by an American president in history. And it's probably still true, although some of the things that George Bush Jr. has been doing these last 7 years certainly may challenge that. But yes, it's an absurd and dangerous idea. And what's more, not only is it absurd and dangerous, but it's obsolete. It's as obsolete as the Great Wall of China in the age of aeroplanes and missiles, because the bombs that are the concern now are the suitcase bombs. There are 47 missing Russian suitcase bombs. They're the things to worry about. They're not going to be sent on missiles. They're going to be sent in briefcases. They're going to be sent by FedEx or smuggled in cars. Because in fact, all the world, not just China, but the whole world is threatened by the idea of the weaponization of space, being driven, as I say, by one nation. The only reason that other nations are worried and responding to this in various ways, if they have the capacity to develop countermeasures, they're going to look at that. If they can match what the United States is doing, they will do that because they're being forced to do that. But nobody wants to do it except the United States. There's also grounds for hope, but only because we are at this point at the moment where we may be able to change it. And this may be our last chance. It may not recur. There is a chance that this next election will mean that America will stop driving this, and that's the end of the problem. Nobody else wants to do it.
Kevin Sanders, looking ahead, do you forecast that under a President Obama, for instance, that the difference will be tangible?
Tangible, profound, sudden, and sweeping. This, I don't want to seem as opposed to my earlier hysteria about the dangers that the world's facing, particularly from nuclear weapons in space and the weaponization of space. But on the other hand, I'm immensely hopeful, and I attach tremendous importance to something that Obama has been saying repeatedly now as part of his standard speech. He talks not about merely changing the policies, the tactics, and the strategies that have gone so far astray in the Middle East adventures of George Bush, but he says he seeks to reformulate and change the whole mindset that thinks in terms of war as a first strategy response. And this is profound. I can't think of any world leader who has said that coming into power.
Mr. Sanders, with respect, Mr. Obama, Senator Obama gives a great soundbite, but when it comes to substance, and I would like to just take an issue, not issue with you, but just highlight a point about him. He has never challenged willfully or directly or taken to task directly that military-industrial complex which you have pointed to so directly, whereas one of those who has now dropped out of the Democratic race, Senator John Edwards, pointedly did and paid a heavy price for it, didn't he? So is it the case that Mr. Obama can even deliver? Can he deliver?
Well, that's a broad question. I don't know perhaps that anybody can deliver a complete answer. All they can do, all one can ever hope to do, is shift by a tiny fraction of a degree the course of human events. That may be enough. In this case, it may be enough to shift the emphasis away from war. Now, this doesn't mean that all contracts with all of the military-industrial complex corporations will be canceled. There'll be tremendous resistance, and huge pressure will be on any president to keep things going the way they are. Therefore, first, it is courageous that he has even spoken out and said this not in a response to an unexpected question. This is a thought-through statement which he repeats regularly. I think that he will at least slow things down, at least start to turn to another direction, and that may be enough. It won't happen in a matter of even one administration, but it can be the beginning of pulling back from the precipice that the madness of Bush and in his own way Reagan has taken the world unnecessarily. The tragedy of what could have been done, one perhaps shouldn't waste time talking about it, but in the incredible lost opportunity at Reykjavik, where Gorbachev and Reagan had almost agreed to get rid of nuclear weapons, to take them all off alert and get rid of them, in which case there would have never been need to even discuss something like Starwars or missile defense. Just take the weapons off alert, get rid of the weapons. They were all set to do that. Literally an hour away from signing an agreement when a member of the now core famous group, the neocons, Richard Pearl, who was at that meeting in Reykjavik, intercepted Reagan just before he went into the final meeting and said, "You mustn't do it, Mr. President. You're trapped. You're being duped. You mustn't sacrifice America's lead. You must go ahead with Starwars as we've agreed." And alas, that prevailed. And now with Reagan in, with Bush in, we've had a resurgence of much of that war think. And now we have an opportunity of a candidate who thinks otherwise. Something good will happen. It may not happen as quickly as we wish, as suddenly as we wish, as totally as we wish. But even if it's just a return to agreements that America has signed, including the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and the Outer Space Affairs Treaty, that will be enough.
Kevin Sanders, you are the man, again going back 25 years. I'm sorry to bring up the number of years, but it shows that you are a man of great experience. You were the man, I believe, that wrote that speech for Mr. Reagan, aren't you? And he omitted a certain line there at the end.
Well,
now, that line that he omitted at the end,
yes,
it seems to say that he doesn't believe, the Americans don't believe space is ownable by anyone but them. Isn't that true?
Yes, I wrote a speech for an event, not so much for the president, but it was Reagan, and Reagan read my speech, all except the last line, which was, "We invite men and women of all lands to join us in this great enterprise." That was cut out. I think that revealed.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin Sanders. Let me leave you there.